Good morning, Dhonielle. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. You got to tell me the spelling of your name because I want listeners to reach out to you and I want to be able to make sure that they spell it right so Google says, who?
I know. I'm the only person with my name, so I'm pretty easy to find. It's Dhonielle. It's Dhonielle. It's weird. My parents are strange.
Wow, that's oh my God. Isn't that weird how we grow from that? It's like we have strange parents and yet we become writers and we get into people's lives by using words.
Exactly.
Were you always a writer growing up, or is that something you discovered as you broke free of high school?
I loved books. I was a reader. I could write well, but I never thought I could be an author. I actually went to college thinking that I would be a doctor, and then I failed chemistry, and my parents were like, figure it out, kid. And I returned to reading because I loved it as a kid, and then I became a teacher and a librarian. And the reason I started writing was because my students asked me tough questions about why they weren't included in some of the big, famous children's books, the ones that everyone said they had to read. They were very frustrated with well, why don't I exist in these? And I thought, I got to do something about that. I need to write my students into existence.
As that librarian, did you ever run into those moments where, there would be a popular book, but I swear that more people walked away from reading because they were on the waiting list to read a certain book? It was like, how do you deal with those students to do that?
It's my greatest challenge. When a kid tells me they hate books, I'm like, you just haven't found the right book.
That's right.
It's a challenge to me to find a story that they can anchor into. It just tells me that they haven't been exposed to the right story or to a story that reflects their experience. So many kids are looking for mirrors of their own experience to anchor them into a story, to make it feel real, like an extension, like it could be in their neighborhood or in their community. And so for me, I was lucky in that I was the easiest reader. You could give me anything, I'd read it. But most of today's youth aren't like me. They're looking actively, or they're like, I'm not going to read. I'm going to watch TV, or I'm going to watch webtoons, or I'm going to watch anime, right?
Yep.
So they give up on books. And I think they give up on books because they haven't found stories that they can connect with.
Well, you've got a connection here with the Marvelers because Ella is doing something that a lot of students and middle schoolers they're first timers at a lot of things, and to be with Ella during this moment, to me this is like, oh my God, I can relate with this story. Yeah,
I wanted Ella to be to really feel like a kid that is in your classroom, one that you have. She is the first kid from her group to go to this school, and she is an outsider. And I think every kid can understand what it means to be an outsider, and how hard it is to come into a community that you don't know. And this book is truly about community. How do we make space for each other? How do we create create community and have no more outsiders? But how hard that is, and how hard it is to be the new kid. And Ella is a kid that is up for the challenge. I was not that kid. I'm writing sort of like the kid I wish I was at 11 years old, who's open-minded, totally wants to be friends with everyone, and is an open heart. I was more like Ella's friend in the book, Bridget, who's like, get me out of here. I hate it. I just want to read my book. Don't talk to me. I was more of that kid. Grumpy sourpuss.
But see, that's the joy of writing, and that's one of the, because I go into these middle schools and even elementary schools, and my goal is to let them understand that you can write. It's not just reading. Write. I want to see what's inside your imagination.
Absolutely. And I didn't know that I could be a writer.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I could do that because I didn't see books growing up frequently that had writers who looked like me. And so I didn't know that it was a viable thing, that it was something that you could do. So I probably would have been writing earlier or wanted to be a writer earlier had I known that. And you can't be what you can't see. So it took me a long time to find my path as a writer and an author.
One of the things that my wife is a school teacher, and the one thing that she said about the Marvelers is the fact she says this is the kind of book where young adults will take it and they'll call it their own, and then it's like one of those things that's going to make it to when they have children, they're going to say, "You're not going to believe this. I've had this book for this many years."
I love that because that's what I want. I want this book to grow with young people. I want them to write themselves into this universe, to come to this world and know that they belong. I set out to write a global magic school, the future of magic school, where every kid is accounted for, and that means it becomes theirs. I want it to become theirs. I want them to be able to infuse all the stuff that they love, to add extra magical creatures and magical food, and really engage with what I tried to do and know that there's space for everyone at my school.
Every child loves magic. Is that the reason why the book is called The Marvelers? Because they're marveled by it.
Well, I wanted to remind kids that they are marvelous. That's the thing that's unique about them. So the Marvelers, the way their magic works is that everyone is born with a light inside of them that is their marvel. It is their gift. It's the thing that makes them unique. And I wanted to remind my young people and my students that they are indeed marvelous. And the fact that they are unique is the reason why. That being an individual and being themselves is their superpower. And so I wanted to translate that into a magical universe. And then have a larger conversation about what happens when you've got all of these different kinds of kids from all over the world who come with their own magic. What happens when you have a kid whose magic looks different than yours? How do you make space? How do you talk about it? How do you, grapple with difference and differences?
Yeah, because Ella is a conjurer, which is different from the Marvelers, and right away students and readers are going to pick up on this, and to me that's the the hook of the song is what you've got going on there.
Yes, exactly, and I think that this is the next big thing that young people are facing is how do we work together? How do we make space for each other when we're different? How do we create community, especially when in the age of misinformation, in the age of sort of all of these, bullying has never been, worse. And I thought that this would be a good conversation starter for parents and their young people, and also for teachers and their students about how you allow people to come in, how you not stereotype and have prejudice.
Well, yeah, and one of the things that very creatively you bring up social bias. There are a lot of students and parents that don't understand that, but you do it in a way that says, oh.
Yes, I felt like this would be a great conversation to have with young people, and I told the book in regular chapters and also in media. So you get to see the media from the world of the Marvelers. You get to see newspaper articles. You get to see government documents. And that way you can have a discussion about how is this headline misleading? How does this article make it seem like the group that Ella comes from is distrustful or scary or different or too different. And I wanted to introduce this idea of social bias, which kids inherently already understand because they understand what it means to be an outsider. Yeah. But what happens when you have been programmed to create outsiders by the media that you consume? And so I thought doing that magically we could have a great conversation.
Yeah, and Ella has to deal with something that a lot of students, face every day, and that is she becomes a target of suspicion. And it's like, this is happening right here in my own school.
Exactly. And then she's frazzled and trying to figure out, well, I represent my whole community.
Yes.
How do I, and that's a burden. It's a burden. How do I, carry that weight? And I'm just a kid and I just want to hang out with my friends and eat cool food and learn new stuff. And then I'm also dealing with this drama, right, from all these people being rude and mean. So yeah, I wanted to tackle that. Have a good conversation.
You got some love from one of my most favorite people on the earth, and that's Mr. Rick Riordan. Oh my God, that man has opened up so many doors for YA authors and stuff like that.
He has. He is one of the greatest gifts in children's literature. He is a wonderful human being, and I feel blessed and lucky that he read my book and blurbed my book and and loves it. I feel like I got a gold seal of approval. He has made a generation of readers and writers. So I am very lucky.
So I remember when I was in middle school and stuff like that, we always got our books from like the Weekly Reader and stuff like that. I love the fact that you are reaching beyond, those little sheets of paper that we could order books from. You physically put the student in the store, and they go through the actual growth of what it's like to be a consumer as well as a reader.
Absolutely. I love those, scholastic reading clubs and ordering your books. I was that nerdy kid that had them all circled, and I was very spoiled. Let me buy all the books, right? They said you can buy as many books as you want.
Yep.
So I felt very blessed. But I also wanted to infuse this world with a sense. There are books in the world. There are stores in the world. There's all this stuff so that it feels real, right? You know what the kids are reading. You know the things that they want to buy. You can feel a sense that this is a community that sits alongside ours. They're just full of magic.
How many? I'm sitting here looking at the book cover right now, and I would love to be a fly on the wall of how many students will walk into a Barnes & Noble or go on to Amazon and stuff like that to pick up the book, and they're going to see this front cover, and they're going to see themselves.
Yes, I'm very excited by that. I love my cover. It was made by a wonderful person she's actually from Malaysia, named Khadija Khatib. And I just wanted the book to feel like big world, 3 troublemakers in that world. 3 kids on that character. That was my goal, to have that created. And I feel like it does a good job of that.
Oh, they sure do. They sure do. So where can people go to find out more about you, to give you lots of love, to support you, and to grow with you?
Yes. So you can check out the marvelerseries.com for all information about the series. You can also follow me on all social media platforms at Brown Bookworm.
Keep teaching the world, please, please. These students need something to grasp onto, and you're right. It's got to go beyond playing games and all that kind of stuff and doing things on the computer. I mean, they just got to read.
They've got to read.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay, Dhonielle?
Thanks. You too.